Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. This is Matt with Coyote Archery. Thank you for sticking around for part 3 of my bow building series. In part 1, if you remember, we started with a bare bow. I'm shooting the Bowtech CP30 for this year and absolutely love the bow. So part 1 went for the bare bow. We added custom strings, installed the rest, and got the bow paper tuned. In part 2, I installed all of my accessories. And now in part 3, I'm going to go through and do my final tuning. I need to make some adjustments to my back bar and my stabilizer and make sure that my bubble is coming up centered when I get to full draw and not having to torque that bow to get it there. And then we'll go through, I'll shoot through paper again and make sure everything is good. And then we'll go outside. The wind's actually not blowing today. And I'll go outside and work on some bare shaft tuning and shoot my broadheads and make sure that my broadheads and my field points are hitting in the same place. And once I get that done, I'm pretty well ready to hunt. Then it's just going to take some practice and repetition. I'm really working on my release. I am shooting a thumb button release this year, and I've been paying attention to some Joel Turner and kind of his methods and really focusing on my release. And so far that's helped me quite a bit. And I haven't gone through his course or anything like that, just kind of taking some things that I've picked up from him from some podcasts and really trying to apply that to my shooting and really focusing on the back end here and not so much on trying to keep that pin where it needs to be. So that's something I'm going to focus on this year and put some time in and practice on that. But let's get started here and get to tuning this bow. So if you remember from my earlier videos, I'm using a Octane QDS hunting kit. This is a 9-inch front stabilizer with 2 ounces of weight. It's got a quick disconnect. And then I'm also have a back bar. This is a 6-inch. You can see that with a quick disconnect. And I have 4 ounces of weight on the back. And I just want to make sure that when I come to full draw, my bubble level on my sight is centered up. A lot of times the weight of your quiver is going to want to pull that bow to the side, and then you've got to actually pull it back yourself, and that's adding torque to the bow, and that's something that I want to avoid. That's what that back bar is going to help with, is help balance that bow out so that you're not having to force the bow one way or the other, and it just sets right where it wants to. So I've got an arrow loaded. Anytime you draw the bow back, whether you're going to shoot or not, make sure you've got an arrow on the bow. And I'm just going to draw back and make sure that my bubble centers up like it's supposed to. If it doesn't, we can make some adjustments to this back bar. If it does, then obviously we're ready to go. So I don't want to have a death grip on this, and my bubble looks really good. It's just floating right there in the center. Okay, so that's what I want. Now that that's set up, again, if I had to make some adjustments, I would do that. Everything looks really good on here. And I want to shoot through paper again. We paper tuned this bow just as a bare bow and a rest. I haven't shot through paper with all these accessories added to it. The thought of that is that now that I've got this extra weight and extra features added to the bow, it's going to change my grip maybe just a little bit and how things are shooting. So I always want to go back and shoot through paper and make sure this is how I'm hunting. I'm going to hunt with the sight and stabilizers and a quiver set up on it. So I want to shoot through paper and see how things are shooting before we go and start shooting bare shafts and broadheads. So let me shoot through paper here and we'll see what we get. That looks pretty good. So this top one right here looks really good. It's a good place to start as far as going back and working on our bare shaft. So that's what we're going to move to next. So I'm outside and it's a beautiful morning out here. It's nice and cool and I don't have a lot of breeze. You can see behind me grass is moving just a little bit. If you have a really strong breeze, you want to try to find more of a calm day to do this outside, unless you've got a really good place inside to shoot where you're out of the wind, because that wind is really going to influence the back of your arrow, how things are going to move and how it's going to hit the target. So I've got a calm day, which is kind of rare here in western Kansas. I'm going to take advantage of that. And I'm going to be shooting into this 3D target, into the foam, and I'm going to shoot into the back end here where it isn't all shot up. Here in the center section, I've got a lot of shots in there, and it could influence how that arrow enters the foam and maybe give me a false reading. I think foam is probably the best material to shoot into, so if you've got a broadhead target or a 3D target, would be ideal, just to show it's going to catch that arrow and not influence it much like a bag target would. I'm going to shoot into the back end here where it's not shot up, and hopefully it doesn't give me a false reading as well. So we'll take some shots from 20 yards, we'll see what my arrows are doing, and we can make some adjustments from there. Okay, so you can see my two shots here. From where you're at, it's probably hard to tell. You can see most likely that my bear shaft is knocked low. So what that's telling me is I've got to make either a rest adjustment or a knocking point adjustment. I've got to move my rest down just a little bit, or I've got to move my knocking point up just a little bit. And being that my rest is really close to hitting the shelf, I probably will move my knock point up a little bit and shoot again and see what we get. As far as my left to right, everything looks pretty good right there. It's showing me maybe a touch tail right on that. If I shoot again, I may get something a little bit different. So I probably won't mess with that unless I have some issues with my broadheads. But I would use the deadlock to do that. And if I have a left knock, if my knock is pointing to the left, I want to turn that deadlock clockwise. I wrote it down so I make sure I have this correct, because it's not something I use a lot. That's the nice thing about it. You can use it and get it set, and you don't have to go back and make a lot of adjustments. But it's very simple. You don't need a press. You don't have to remove the cams and axles and all that to make those shim adjustments. You can do that right there with a deadlock. So a clockwise turn is going to adjust your left tear. It's going to move those cams slightly to the left, and you would want to do your top and your bottom the same. I would recommend just small adjustments, maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn at a time, and don't go too far one way or the other, and see what that does. If I have some issues and my broadheads aren't flying quite like I'd like them, I will probably make some adjustments there. But that's what's great about the deadlock. And then the opposite is true. If you have a tail right, you would turn that counterclockwise, and it's going to move your cams to the right and make a slight adjustment, and it works really well. It's amazing how much a small adjustment can really help with that. So anyways, that's what I would do for bear shaft tuning. I'm going to make that adjustment. I'll shoot him again and see if it corrects this tail low on my bear shaft, and then I'll shoot a broadhead, and hopefully my broadheads are flying right with my field points, and I'm ready to hunt. Okay, this looks a lot better. I'm still maybe just a little bit tail low. My left to right looks really good. So if I had a little bit of a knock right before, I think it might have just been the foam telling me that. And I shot it again. I don't have any issues with that. They're basically dead straight on. Little bit tail low. I'm going to shoot a broadhead and see what I get with that, because if my broadheads are hitting high from my field points, tells me I need to make another adjustment, move that knock up just a little bit. I didn't move it very much. I didn't want to take a big swing at it, so just a small adjustment, and it helps some, but maybe just a little bit more. But let's see what broadheads are telling me. Okay, these two shots are from 20 yards. I don't know if you can see. I always shoot my broadhead first and then my field point. I don't want to shoot a broadhead at a field point and try to tear something up. But this here is my broadhead. This is my field point. It's a little bit high. Gosh, I can barely fit my finger in there. It might be 3/4 to an inch high. I would probably want to shoot this a few more times and make sure that I'm getting consistent result with that. And if I am, I'll make another adjustment. But 20 yards, I'm pretty close. I probably should go back to about 30 and do the same thing. And this may open up a little bit. If it's shooting high, I may be another inch higher, and then I know I've got to make adjustments with that. But still really close. And I'm going to work to make it a little bit better and keep shooting at that and keep working at that. But that's the process that I would go through, and make sure that things are where they need to be. If you haven't shot broadheads, you should shoot broadheads into a target. Just see how they fly. If you're shooting mechanicals, you may not have as big of a flight issue as you would with a really large 2-blade cut-on contact head. What I'm shooting here, it's in the target pretty good. It's a 3-blade. It's a Magnus Snuffer SS if you watch my other video. And they fly really nice, but you've got to have your bow tuned to make them fly really nice as well. And so that's important. And it's still early August, so I'm going through these things now so that when I get into season, I'm ready to hunt. I know that my arrows with broadheads are going to fly just as my field points, and I'm confident in my setup, and I'm confident that I'm not going to make a bad shot. At least the bow's not going to make a bad shot. I can make a bad shot, but the bow is set up, and I trust that it's going to do what it's supposed to do. So hopefully you've enjoyed these videos and you've learned something from them, help you get your setup tuned and ready to go for this season. It's still early, but now's the time to be doing this and not putting it off until the last minute. So folks, hopefully this was helpful. I thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can always reach me. My contact information is on the website, coyotecreekarchery.com. Get out there and shoot, practice, and make sure that you're ready to go. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and God bless.